He left me as a reminder of what happens when hope is lost, when belief is forgotten, and the Christmas spirit dies.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
You're listening to Carousel Sniper Victim, a Dead Glass Design production, with your host, Shaun Jeffery.
When you're a little kid, you learn the ins and outs of Santa really early. It's pretty simple. Be good and you get presents. Be bad and you might get coal or, even worse, nothing at all. But what you might not know is that Santa isn't the only magical, mythical figure associated with the season. In Eastern Europe, there are a number of characters associated with Christmas, and not all of them are nice. Some of them are quite terrifying. Over the past few years, Santa Claus's darker half, Krampus, has enjoyed quite a resurgence in popularity. The half-goat, half-demon punishes where Santa Claus rewards. Despite the popularity of Krampus, he is not the only other Christmas-time folklore figure that you can look forward to a visit from this holiday season. You might get a visit from Santa Claus, or you might get a visit from the Scarecrow, Hans Trapp, or maybe even, if you're really lucky, a visit from Frau Perchta, the belly slitter. Frau Perchta, the belly slitter. Her origins aren't exactly known, but she is best known as a figure from Austrian and Southern Germanic folklore, but versions of her can be found all over Europe. Her name means the Shining One, so she may have started out as a pagan goddess figure that was later twisted into a hag as Christianity enveloped and eventually suppressed pagan cultures. Frau Perchta roams the 12 nights of the Christmas celebration. She visits homes during the 12 days before Christmas and the celebrations of the Epiphany. What's the Epiphany? The feast of the celebration of the Epiphany, also known as Three Kings Day, is a Christian feast day that celebrates the revelation of God incarnate as Jesus Christ. In Western Christianity, the feast commemorates principally but not solely the visit of the Magi to the Christ child and thus Jesus' physical manifestation to the Gentiles. Regardless of her origins or the made-up origins of ancient sand wizards and their cults, in true medieval folklore style, Frau Perchta punishes those she deems fit accordingly. She is a rewarder of the generous and a punisher of the lazy, the liars and the greedy. Her primary victims, however, are those who don't honour her feast day. You see, Frau Perchta hates it when people work on the Epiphany, and she takes a special interest in spinners. No, not fidget spinners or CrossFit spin class spinners, the old school yarn type spinners. It was important to Perchta that everyone stop working on her feast day, sit down to a nice meal of fish and gruel, which was the official meal of the Epiphany. And you must hang out with the rest of the community too. No bar humbugs allowed. If you didn't want to eat your fish and gruel, well, she'd make sure your stomach was full of something anyway. She would slit open the bellies of her victims, slice them open and pull out their intestines. She would then fill their guts with stones and rubbish. Frau Perchta was also not a fan of dishonest children either. Those little fibbers would have their lying tongues scraped with a shard of glass. But Frau Perchta does more than just check up on your spinning and make sure you're eating your delicious Christmas fish gruel. And she isn't all disemboweling and tongue scraping either. Other legends equate Frau Perchta with the legend of the Wild Hunt, and say that she flies through the night sky attended by an army of lost souls, Perchten, and unbaptized children. These demon Perchten, her army of servants, are visually nearly indistinguishable from Krampus, so whilst everyone is talking about how dope Krampus is, this crazy woman has a whole army of Krampuses, Krampi, whatever the collective noun for a gathering of Krampus is. The only way to know for sure if you're seeing the actual Krampus or just one of the look-alike minions of Frau Perchta is context. Krampus rides abroad at St. Nicholas Eve, doing essentially the opposite work that Santa does, while the Perchten tend more towards the Epiphany and the last 3 Thursdays before Christmas, also known as Berktul nights or the Knocking nights. Frau Perchta's army of the night, full of the souls of unbaptized children. Legend has it, if you hear the wind and thunder roaring and rumbling through the mountains on the Berktul nights before Christmas, you're really hearing the sounds of Perchta leading the wild hunt. The Peterborough Chronicle, also called the Lord Manuscript, one of the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, contains unique information about the history of England after the Norman conquest. The Anglo-Saxon chronicles were composed and maintained between the various monasteries of Anglo-Saxon England, and were an attempt to record the history of Britain throughout the years AD, what we would now call CE for the current era. Typically the chronicles began with the birth of Christ, went through the biblical and Roman histories, and then continued to the present time respectively. In one volume of the Peterborough Chronicles, there is an account of the wild hunt's appearance at night in the year 1127. Many men both saw and heard a great number of huntsmen hunting. The huntsmen were black, huge and hideous, and rode on black horses and on black he-goats, and their hounds were jet black, with eyes like saucers, and horrible. This was seen in the very deer park of the town of Peterborough, and in all the woods that stretch from the same town to Stamford, and in the night the monks heard them sounding and winding their horns. Reliable witnesses were said to have given the number of huntsmen as 20 or 30, and it is said in effect that this went on for 9 weeks, ending in Easter. But alas, no mention of Frau Perchta leading the hunt in this account. Although the legends of Frau Perchta is an ancient one in Eastern Europe, her story was popularised by Jacob Grimm, of the famous Brothers Grimm tales. He called her Frau Berchta, the female counterpart to Berchtold, the leader of the wild hunt. Seeing the hunt in passing was thought to be an omen indicating great misfortune. I've never been one to have trouble falling asleep on Christmas Eve, but this might just give someone more reason to lay huddled and sleepless under their bed on the 24th of December, especially if you've spun too much yarn this year. Now, whilst Frau Perchta is busy punishing the spinstrels of Austria and southern Germany, Hans Trapp is taking care of the children of France. Hans Trapp is a legendary boogeyman from the Alsace and Lorraine regions of France. He accompanies Santa Claus to punish naughty children at Christmas. While Santa Claus delivers presents and gifts, Hans Trapp delivers beatings. When Christmas approaches, naughty children in Alsace and Lorraine tremble when their parents utter the words, "Hans Trapp is coming." Everyone knows the tale of Santa's evil counterpart. According to the legend, during the 15th century there was a rich and powerful man who lived in the heart of Alsace. His name was Hans Trapp. The people of Alsace knew him to be vain, cunning, heartless and cruel. His life was given over to lawlessness and debauchery, and his only goal was to enrich himself by all means necessary. It was said that he worshipped Satan and used black magic and occult rituals to obtain his wealth and hold on to his power. When the Catholic Church became aware of these misdeeds, Hans Trapp was arrested and brought before the Pope in Rome. He was excommunicated from the church for the crime of sacrilege. When he returned to Alsace, he was ostracized by the local people. Everyone fled from him as if he was some kind of wild beast. His money and land was confiscated, and he was left penniless. They say he was forced into exile in the forest and isolated himself from the rest of society. He found shelter on the mountain of Geisberg in Bavaria, Germany, where he built himself a makeshift shack from sticks. The solitude caused him to lose his mind, and he spent his days brooding and dreaming of revenge. His anger and resentment were intensified, and he became more deeply devoted to Satanism. Descending into madness, Hans Trapp began to dream of eating human flesh. The evil man was obsessed with the desire to bite into the flesh of a human arm, leg, or thigh. He roamed the countryside and disguised himself as a scarecrow by stuffing his ragged clothes with straw. He spent his time gathering sticks and hay in the field and lying in wait, looking for the perfect victim. One day he spotted a young shepherd boy making his way through the woods. The boy was only 10 years of age, but Hans Trapp was determined to kill him and eat him. As he stared at the young boy, he began to drool at the mouth, imagining biting into his delicious and tender flesh. Before the boy knew what was happening, Hans Trapp pounced, attacking him viciously and running him through with a sharpened stick. Then, he dragged the dying child back to his shack, where he cut the boy in pieces and roasted them over an open fire. When his monstrous meal was ready, Hans Trapp licked his lips and prepared to taste human flesh for the first time. However, before a morsel could enter his mouth, a bolt of lightning came from the sky and struck him dead. As the story goes, God would not allow the abomination to continue, and decided to end the crimes of Hans Trapp once and for all. Why he didn't choose to strike him down with lightning before he stabbed the child with the stick, I don't know, but it's not my story. Since that time, Hans Trapp has remained a terrifying legend in the folklore of Alsace and Lorraine. Every Christmas he goes from house to house clad in his scarecrow disguise, scaring the life out of small children and drooling greedily over their tender flesh. There is also the Father Whipper, supposedly another character who accompanies St. Nicholas in his rounds during St. Nicholas Day, which is the 6th of December, dispensing lumps of coal and or floggings to naughty children while St. Nick gives gifts to the well-behaved. The most popular story about the origin of the Whipping Father was told in the year 1150. An innkeeper, or in other versions a butcher, captured 3 young boys who appear to be wealthy and on their way to enroll in a religious boarding school. Along with his wife, he kills the children in order to rob them. One gruesome version tells that they drug the children, slit their throats, cut them into pieces and stew them in a barrel. Luckily, St. Nicholas discovers the crime and resurrects the children. After this, the Whipping Father repents and becomes St. Nick's partner. A slightly altered version of this story claims that St. Nicholas forced the Whipping Father to become his assistant, as a punishment for his crimes. Another origin story states that during the siege of Metz, a city in eastern France in 1552, an effigy of King Charles Quint, more commonly known as Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, King of the Romans, King of Italy, blah 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 blah, was burned and dragged through the city. Meanwhile, an association of tanners created a grotesque character armed with a whip and bound in chains that punished children. After the city of Metz was liberated, the charred effigy of Charles Quint and the character created by the tanners somehow assimilated into what is now known as Le Pierre Fouettard, the Whipping Father. Events surrounding the city's liberation and the burning of the effigy coincided with the passage of St. Nicholas, hence Le Pierre Fouettard became his bad cop sort of counterpart, seemingly for no other reason than it happened around Christmas time, but hey, that's history for you. In the 1930s, La Pierre Fouettard appeared in the United States under the translated name Father Flog, or Spanky. Although almost identical to the original French personification, Father Flog had nothing to do with Christmas and also had a female accomplice named Mother Flog. The two doled out specific punishments for specific childhood crimes, e.g. if you were a liar, they'd cut your tongue out. I guess kids were really hard to deal with back then or something? It seems pretty sadistic though, does it not? Like,
Shush now, little Timmy, or you'll have your stomach cut open and be beaten with a bag full of coal, and then I'll scrape your tongue with some glass. Merry Christmas, son.
cut to young Timmy terrified in bed wondering what kind of fucking psychotic holiday is this. I think we can all be pretty grateful that we've commercialised the shit out of Christmas and advertising firms think cute sells better than some kind of murder-fest hostel holiday. Gone are the days of belly slitting and in are the days of Black Friday sales where people queue for hours to fight over goods they've been sold into believing they really want when really some of society might benefit from a serving of fish gruel from time to time. As most of the winter folklore tales originate in Europe, a place where winter is cold and dark, if you listen to some of the carol lyrics you can get that kind of feel. The words to the carol Good King Wenceslas were written by John Mason Neale and published in 1853. The music originates in Finland some 300 years earlier. This Christmas carol is unusual as there is no reference in the lyrics to the Nativity. Good King Wenceslas was the king of Bohemia in the 10th century. He was martyred following his assassination by his brother Boleslaw and his brother's supporters. His saint's day is September 28th and he is the patron saint of the Czech Republic. St. Stephen's feast day was celebrated on the 26th of December, which is why this song is sung as a Christmas carol. But if you listen to the lyrics, it tells a pretty dark story. Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Hither, page, and stand by me, if thou know'st it telling. Yonder peasant, who is he? Where and what his dwelling? Sire, he lives a good league hence, underneath the mountain, right against the forest fence by St. Agnes fountain. Bring me flesh and bring me wine, bring me pine logs hither. Thou and I will see him dine when we bear him thither. Page and monarch forth they went together, through the rude wind's wild lament and the bitter weather. Sire, the night is darker now, and the wind blows stronger. Fails my heart, I know not how I can go on no longer. Mark my footsteps, my good page, tread thou in them boldly. Thou shalt find the winter's rage freeze thy blood less coldly. In his master's steps he trod, where the snow lay dinted. Heat was in the very sod which the saint had printed. Therefore, Christian men, be sure, wealth or rank possessing, ye who now will bless the poor, shall yourselves find blessing.
Ho 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 ho. Merry Christmas, yo. Happy holidays. Crazy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. And whatever non-denominational holiday you want to celebrate, you do you. Cheers for all the support, everyone. Crazy 4 months of podcasting. Love you all. I hope you're enjoying whatever you're doing today. Whether you're with family or just laying around at home. No, we love you. Especially if you're listening right now. We love you. You're the best. Especially Paul Sparrow. Cheers to your Christmas message this morning, dudes. Oh, and Amy, I just saw your message on Twitter just then. That was so nice as well. Premiere Google Pixel Play Home thingy. We're so blessed to have people like yous listening. Alright, off to do more Christmas stuff, yo. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas episode. Love yous. See yous around.
Hey, hit me with a holiday classic. Hey, Rudolph. Hey, Rudolph. Man, this shit sounds a little bit like Jingle Bells. I don't think these people in the back can hear the bass. I'm looking fresh just like the young Kris Kringle. Hear them sleigh bells coming, ring a jing jingle. It's time for that hot new Christmas single. Footsteps on your roof, I'm dancing on your shingles. I'm getting turned with a reindeer. You don't know my boys, just listen. We got Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donna, and Bliss, and there, Rudolph the red-nosed man, a flow so cold, yeah, it almost froze. You asked for the new pair of sandals, I suppose I can do that, but don't be mad when the kids say, what are those? Ha! So choose your gifts wisely. December 25th, hell yeah, I work nightly. All the gifts you want, yeah, the L's, they supply me. You on the naughty list, lump a chord, thinking, why me? Cause you probably shouldn't try me. Real Saint Nick, real slick like the pine tree. Happy holidays and tis the season. December to remember, Santa Claus is coming, that's the reason. Something about the holiday, man. It just feels right, so I end this song by saying Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.